Okay, please welcome the Behavioral Medications in Minors Board.
Hello, so our topic was obviously behavioral medication in minors. I'm Michael Wachowski.
I'm Emma Kaiser. I'm Taylor Wendell.
Nathan Craig.
I'm Lydia Marshall.
I'm Timmy Fad.
Behavioral medication is a broad field that can cover anywhere from attention deficit hyperactive disorder or autism, even cancer and asthma. Our proposal is to re-educate the public through the use of social media, walkathons, and surveys, and eventually take our case to the United Nations in order to pass regulations that monitor the prescription of these medications across the globe. The field is relatively new. The first laboratory opened up in the University of Pennsylvania in 1974, but it was not until 1999 that Congress recognized it as an official field. Our topic is important because the diagnostic rate of mental disorders in children is rapidly growing. In fact, the diagnostic rate of attention deficit hyperactive disorder in children has grown from 7.8% in 2003 to 11% in 2011. And the prescription rate of ADHD medications has grown from 4.8% in 2007 to 6.1% in 2011.
There are a lot of actions currently being taken to enhance this field. These actions include educating the public, raising public awareness, and doing research. So just to list a few, an organization, the Cincinnati Children's Hospital, receives funding from the National Institute of Health. They are studying a lot of things like childhood problems such as sleeping disorders and headaches, and they are trying to discover more effective ways to treat this. They also have 3 nationally recognized centers dedicated to trying to improve care for children with ADHD and other adherence disorders. And they also do a lot of public outreach stuff to raise awareness for the topic. Johns Hopkins is an organization that a lot of us have heard of. They are conducting research sponsored by the National Institute of Mental Health and the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration. They're doing things like running clinical drug trials and intervention testing. They're testing drugs that treat things like OCD, ADHD, mood disorders, things like that. Finally, May 7th is National Children's Mental Health Awareness Day. It's dedicated to a specific thing related to children's mental health each year, but overall the goal is to raise awareness for things like care and treatment. As you can see, a lot of these things are research and awareness, so we wanted to kind of pick up the slack for the less developed area, which would be education.
Most people in our situation would try to use tragic events such as Columbine, which was a shooting at Columbine High School in Colorado, in which 2 students opened fire and killed 12 students and 1 teacher, in an attempt to compel you to support our cause. They would try and say that this horrific event could have been prevented had these students been properly medicated and cared for. However, this is not the case. We can't make this claim because we don't know what would happen. However, we do know what has happened, and we do know what is currently happening, and we can tell you how we are going to change that. Across the world, minors are given untested, unlicensed medications, and their behavioral disorders are being taken advantage of. They're being used as medical guinea pigs internationally. Along with this, the public opinion of this often has a negative connotation. This negative connotation is often expressed to those who require these medications to control their emotions, impulsivity, and symptoms of certain diseases such as autism and ADHD. Many who are uneducated in this topic make claims that these people who have these symptoms are either too weak or they just need to learn how to manage their symptoms and distract themselves from it. However, sadly, this is not possible for many of these people because it is a chemical imbalance in the brain that causes these disorders. And we believe that through our education program, we can both standardize practice across the globe while also educating the general public.
Okay, so our group felt that there could be a lot more done towards educating the public about behavioral disorders. So we decided that we would try to host public events such as walkathons, provide surveys, and use social media to interact with people and kind of get them more involved so they'll learn more, but still be participating. So that way they'll have better
have a better view of the practice instead of looking at the practice as something that is bad or purely as us giving narcotics to our minors. Because while they're narcotic level drugs based on how much you take, these children are often given very minimal doses in an attempt to only manage their symptoms or to control their symptoms. So they're still themselves, but they're able to make better choices.
So we're going to carry out this plan of educating people along with asking for volunteers to help work at the walkathons and spread information about how behavioral medication can be positive. We're going to measure the knowledge that people gain at walkathons with surveys. So we're going to spend $100,000 on TV advertisement and on commercials, in a sense, to help spread word about our walkathon. And our walkathon is going to cost $13,000, and it's going to be on May 7th, which is National Children Health Awareness Day. Then we're going to spend another $10,000 on radio broadcasts, where we're going to have behavioral medication scientists come in, and also children affected with the behavioral disorders talk about their experience with their behavioral medication and the ways it has positively affected their lives. We're going to spend $10,000 on handing out our surveys at our walkathons, and our surveys will ask the people how much knowledge they've gained from the walkathon about behavioral medication and behavioral disorders. Also, it will ask questions like, how much more comfortable do you feel now knowing that your child is going to get a behavioral medication if you have children? Now we're going to spend $12,000 on an office space and $40,000 every year for an office manager to just help us stay organized. And then with our last $10,000, we're going to spend that to create a behavioral medication in minors documentary and ask that CBS will air it. In total, this will cost $225,000.
We should be funded on behavioral medication in minors, so there can be more education and research on this topic. Not many people know about the horrors of behavioral medication in minors. Many children are put on harmful, unlicensed medications that may not even be right for their disorder. If more education and research is put into this, then more people can know the problems and they can work on being resolved.
Any questions?
Questions? Okay.
You're kind of sending me a little bit of a mixed message. Are you saying that current medications for behavioral issues are not being used correctly? What we're saying is that while there is a lot of medications being used correctly, internationally there are a lot of there's a lot of untested and unlicensed medications that are being given to minors. And our plan after we get local results in the U.S., we would like to take this to the UN in an attempt to standardize the treatment globally, so that we can prevent this from happening to them, while also educating the public that in America because we have regulations that control this, and we have, for the most part, standardized practice about how this is going to be diagnosed, who gets what medications, and we would like to try and standardize that for the most part across the entire world.
Where will the walkathon be? Is this a one-time event, or is this just on the East Coast? I mean,
So what we're doing is we're doing the ad campaign across the United States, but the walkathon is going to, it would occur on May 7th, most likely in this Virginia area, especially since Virginia is one of the higher mental illness states in the United States. So we were thinking somewhere like Richmond or Charlottesville, and we were planning on trying to get volunteers to help us with this, because we want to carry it out, but we would also like to get volunteers who are passionate about it or who have family members who have mental disabilities who experience what these good things do. So what these medications do, so we can kind of promote it in a sense.
Why is Virginia a high mental illness state?
I know in Virginia especially, there's a lot of ADHD diagnoses, but that could be because in Virginia there is an ideal for how there's a new way to diagnose ADHD, because in some cases people are told that they don't have ADHD and they're using it as an excuse because they're energetic, but there's a certain doctor who committed, and he has a lot of people in Virginia who believe in what he stated, where ADHD is a prominent mental disorder, and that the awareness for it needs to go up, and people need to know how to manage it or need to know how to get medicated if it gets to the point where it detriments their well-being or the well-being of people around them or their educational and professional success.
And what's your source for that information?
It is the APA, actually, the American Psychological Association.
Very good, thank you.